Hey everyone, this is Fibbif, and on this week's Fibbif's Oddities of Gaming, I've got a special treat for you. What? You don't know what Fibbif's Oddities of Gaming is? Well, let me tell you, every single Friday on the BitFix Gaming forums, I present a interesting oddity of gaming, something that you may have never seen or heard of from the gaming world. So this week in a special video edition of Fibbif's Oddities of Gaming, I present the Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. That's actually not the oddity, okay? Now, I'm sure many of you have heard this game before because it's a Zelda game. Many people have heard of it before. So, the 4 Swords Adventures is originally designed to hook up a GameCube to a Game Boy Advance using the special GameCube to Game Boy Advance cable. Now, one end of the cable plugs into the top of the Game Boy Advance, and the other end... Let me get it here. The other end is actually designed to plug into the controller port of the GameCube. So this game is actually designed to have you and 3 friends each plug your Game Boy Advance into your GameCube for simultaneous play, and tons of fun. However, this is an oddity of gaming, so I can't leave it as simple as that. So instead, I just want to show you that my GameCube, rather than being plugged into a Game Boy Advance, is actually plugged into another GameCube. That's right, I've got this plugged into another GameCube running a Game Boy Advance, or the Game Boy player, rather. So I've got that hooked up to another TV, and the fun thing is, instead of playing with the Game Boy Advance, I actually get to play with the regular GameCube controller through a TV, through another TV. Alright, so let's go ahead and start the game. I'm just going to start one of my old saves. Still, this screen's not really displaying a whole lot. Now this is where the fun begins. You enter a cave, and instead of being on the Game Boy Advance, the action moves to the other TV. Excellent. I got the boomerang. Alright, so we've seen a lot of fun there. A GameCube game running on a Game Boy player using the GameCube controller as controls. Now, some of you may recall that actually you can use the Game Boy Advance as a controller when you're using the Game Boy player. So why don't we try that? I'm going to unplug my GameCube controller, plug in my GameCube to Game Boy Advance cable, and then turn on my Game Boy. There we go. Now, being completely odd, I'm controlling action on the TV using my Game Boy, moving to the other TV. Wow, how insane is that? But wait, there's more. So rather than just stopping there, I want to show you another interesting thing I have. This is a Game Boy Advance TV tuner plugged into a Game Boy Advance SP. Now, this TV tuner is actually designed to pick up analog TV signals, and at least here in the US, analog signals have been replaced with digital signals, so this, as a TV tuner, is completely worthless. On the good side is, there is actually audio-video inputs. So, I'm going to disconnect from this TV. Plug into the TV tuner. Pardon me for just a minute. Alright, see, there we have it plugged in. Open up the SP. So now we will actually broadcast the game. I have to enter in a button combination here. I'm actually broadcasting the GameCube game onto another Game Boy. So, how obscure and odd is this? Well, let's recap. We have a Game Boy controlling a Game Boy player running through another GameCube, which is outputting its video onto a Game Boy. I am using a Game Boy to control another Game Boy. If you don't think that's going to blow your mind, then you can just get out. Anyway, that's this week's Fibbif's Oddities of Gaming. I thank you for joining me, and I really hope you enjoyed.